Well, we'll look forward to it. Lots of colour changing, hopefully, on that data screen. Lots of purple figures coming up as people put in faster laps. De La Rosa climbs aboard. Eddie Irvine's car looks ready now, so that's good news for the Jaguar team as they set to do work. Now, Fisichella's not quite ready to get in his car. I wonder if they've managed to cure whatever made it stop out on track. Doesn't look like it, does it? The car's still up on its stands, and it doesn't look as though they've got that car quite ready. We've got Honda engineers working away.
Yes, and they're working underneath. You can see the engineers on their backs underneath. So that means the floor pan, the underbody of the Jordan has also been taken off. And I suspect that's somewhere around the flywheel part of the engine where a lot of the electronics from the mechanical side of the deal, as it were, actually are activated from. So it's a disappointment for Fisichella and for Jordan and Honda that car is not going to be out at the beginning of this session. We did get a few glimpses skyward of the clouds. They are about. It's not the clear, bright, sunny day that the forecast some 12 or 14 hours ago indicated it might be. That might actually come for qualifying, but right now there's still the threat, the overhanging cloud, and there was a bit of wind earlier on, though that appears now to be dropping. Still 75% humidity, 15 degrees on track, 13 ambient, so it's not anywhere near ideal. And we heard some of the companies, some of the teams discussing whether they can get enough temperature into the tyres on that out lap and on the qualifying lap to maximise the grip from the tyres in a simulated qualifying run.
Panis also waiting for his car to be made ready, but still plenty of work going on there as well as they struggle to get it out for this session. And Panis losing valuable setup time here this weekend in terms of getting it ready for qualifying. There's the view over the Northamptonshire countryside, and well, it is cloudy, but it's not too bad. The cloud has lifted a little bit compared certainly to what we saw yesterday, so let's just hope that it stays dry for this qualifying session this afternoon.
But where has our summer gone? We've had a lousy summer, and so many sports events have been upset by rain interruptions, and the days of having balmy Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays seem to be something that we are not getting on a regular basis. But at least Eddie Irvine for Jaguar is the first car out on track. In fact, the car out on track.
Yeah, but they've got that gearbox fixed. That's the important thing. So Eddie Irvine takes to the track in the Jaguar, and now gets an opportunity to really discover what this car is like in its new format, with the new aerodynamics, particularly around the front of the car, new front wing, new barge boards, hoping that will help provide the downforce that has been lacking. And this track does respond to good aerodynamic downforce, doesn't it, John? In several key areas you need that bodywork to produce the download, to produce the grip.
Yes, the problem Jaguar has suffered is that they've been maybe 10, maybe 20% short of what Ferrari have, and that's an enormous amount of downforce to give away, and it means that you've set compromises all the way through the setup of the car. Now they were looking to get maybe 10% more than they had. The trouble is that since they set out on that mission, everybody else has moved forward as well. They've probably picked up a further 3 or 4% downforce. So the total gain for Jaguar over their opposition would be about 6 maximum percent. Not a big amount, enough maybe to take them from where they've been, which has been just ahead of the two Minardis, to somewhere possibly in the middle of the bottom 10, but they're looking to be at the bottom of the top 10 or the top of the bottom 10.
Yeah, that's right, somewhere like that. And we'll see whether Irvine and De La Rosa can achieve that this afternoon. He's got a very clear track. He's still the only car out there, so everyone else taking their time before they come onto the circuit, and Irvine trying to make up for that lost time from the earlier session. And well, he avoided the hair on this part of the track earlier on. It all looks clear now, and he can just get on with it and take a look at the split time, see how it compares. 1.3 seconds down on Michael Schumacher's fastest time so far.
Well, I think for the first flying lap for Irvine, that is not a bad effort, and I think he might feel slightly more buoyed up by the fact that 1.3 seconds is a mile in terms of and it's almost, in fact, is a mile, believe me, to that first split time. But look at Niki Lauda, Gunther Steiner and the team on the pit wall, just almost trying by telepathy to make the car go quicker.
Yeah, that's right. They need it so much. They've hung their hats on it to a certain extent. They've talked about this Silverstone race being crucial, and there you look at the second split time.
Well, there's the truth. 2.3 seconds, just over the two, probably about 2 1/3 mile of this 3.1, almost 3.2 mile circuit. So 2 seconds off the pace. He's going to be somewhere, I would think, about 12th to 16th, just at a rough guess, if he completes this lap. Eddie Irvine, in fact, goes 10th. Well, good third sector. Although he lost time to Schumacher, but proportionally lost less time in that third sector than he lost in the second sector.
Yes, and what we do have to remember is that Michael Schumacher himself is 1.5 seconds, more than 1.5 seconds ahead of the nearest non-Ferrari challenger, so there is a big difference anyway between Ferrari and the rest. So that means Irvine's moved up into 10th place on his first true flying lap, and he's got a bit more chance to see what it will do. Rubens Barrichello, he'll be coming out in a moment. Second fastest, remember, to his teammates at the moment. Both have completed just over 10 laps during the first session this morning. Most laps completed this morning were 20 laps completed by Felipe Massa and Nick Heidfeld. So Sauber obviously getting in good mileage, but there are still concerns down there in the Jordan pit because Fisichella car not ready, and all the top brass are down there watching.
Yes, they're beginning the repair to get the car back on track. You can see, I think that's one of the, I'm not sure it's part of the race, working around one of the coolers, oil or radiator, and just screwing on the ducting, the bodywork ducting that probably had to be removed to get access to some of the parts of the car. Of course, the packaging of a Grand Prix car is critical to the car's performance, and all the major components are mounted as low as is physically possible to keep the centre of gravity as low as teammate Takuma Sato is pushed back into his garage. I don't think Sato has actually been out. In fact, he's been pushed out and pushed back in. I think he must have stalled the engine.
So they have to reset everything and send him on his way again. He is 7th fastest though, remember, the Japanese driver, so it's a good effort from him so far. Just slower than Coulthard, but faster than Bernoldi, who's gone out onto track now as well. We're watching Juan Pablo Montoya as he goes on to a flying lap himself, past the stands that are right opposite the pits here, for a view not only of the cars flashing past, but of what's going on in the pit garages. And we're now riding on board with the Colombian.
But you Jaguar fans, Eddie Irvine improved on his second flying lap. He's gone 9th quickest and puts him inside the top 10 ahead of the first of the Renaults, which is Jarno Trulli.
Ralf Schumacher waits for his opportunity to come out. Currently, Ralf finds himself 14th, Montoya 15th after that early qualifier free practice session. But now they'll perhaps start to pump the fuel out and build up towards qualifying this afternoon.
Yes, Button somewhere around Copse appears to have gone off or stopped. There's a yellow flag situation there. And they haven't actually seen. They're just trying to get a glimpse at whether they've got on the on-board, in fact, with Button. In fact, it's not, it's Frentzen. So the information that we got initially was wrong. It's Frentzen and the Arrows, and in fact Arrows having a traumatic weekend, a great start in the first part, but now Frentzen, yes, it looks like it may have been a problem at pit lane and the car being pushed down. This is slightly downhill, so makes the job of Frentzen marginally easier, but I don't know about pushing a car back down the pit lane.
That's the other car there as well, that's Bernoldi. They're both pushing their cars down the pit lane, John. This is slightly odd. Reminds us of Australia, where they both failed to get off the line at the start of the race, and for some reason both of them are pushing their cars down the pit lane.
Well, there's Frentzen. Don't touch, leave it alone, no outside assistance. And then we went to Bernoldi. I mean, it's this is well, I don't know. We need to get somebody in the Arrows pit to come up with some explanation. Don't touch the car. Telling the marshals any outside assistance will mean the car will not be permitted. He must get back into the pit lane, but I don't know how he can be seen to be, because it is only a single car width where you come off the main pit itself into this pit lane exit, and I'm not quite sure what the rulebook says about that, but that's one to look into and get a view. There we see Bernoldi doing the same thing with his car. I mean, this is unbelievable.
This is very strange. I mean, Arrows, what a weekend they're having. First of all, they weren't going to be out there at all, and the team have to wait until they see the car coming into the end of the pit lane before they can get out and help them. So it's all to do with the rules and outside assistance of where the car is, and the drivers bringing the cars back into the pit lane and hoping that they can get it back to the teams. It must be just a software problem, a computer glitch of some sort that has affected both cars as they've gone out of the pit lane, and it's just as well that it's slightly downhill on the way back in.
Yeah, but it's amazing that both cars literally on their way out of the pit stop at an identical part of the racetrack, and Frentzen has done something which I've not seen. I can't remember when I've ever seen a driver get his car back in. He never actually got onto the racetrack, which was how the pit lane is designated as part of the racetrack. It isn't the formal part of the racetrack, so everyone being asked to slow down as a Ferrari comes through, and Bernoldi doing the same as his teammate. Never easy to push, and the problem of doing it is you've got to lean into the cockpit, and your ankles, you can get clipped by the front wheel if you try to push it too quickly. Frentzen now relieved of his car and walks back, frustrated, no doubt, after all the frustrations of Friday morning and afternoon.
But look at Michael Schumacher, as ever, straight away out on a warm-up lap, and he's committed. The car is moving around the track. You can hear the engine screaming its way, and as he builds up onto his first flying lap, always attacking the circuit. Here he comes out of the final corner. We take a quick look now on board Nick Heidfeld's car, and he's down at the bottom end of the circuit, coming out of Club Corner up towards the Abbey bend, the left and the right. Just watch him through here, and then the quick right-hander at bridge. Let's listen to the engine. Early change-up just before he turns in, but it sounded as though he kept his foot hard on the throttle. Yeah,
he did the right thing. He just short-shifted, which meant that he wasn't having to change actually in bridge corner. But top 10 has changed marginally, because Juan Pablo Montoya for the first time really now into the top 10 in 7th place. And again, personal best in first and second sector. So Williams clearly pumping the fuel out, probably on freshish or if not new tyres, as we watch Michael Schumacher not showing anything like this, or quite the pace that we saw this morning. Nonetheless, this is probably on a set of tyres that have also used through the 45-minute session this morning.
Yes, that's right. He's probably got a little less grip, but the car looks beautiful, very well balanced. He seems to be able to adjust its balance through the corner, and that's looking good for Michael, as Montoya's moved up to 5th fastest now.
Michael only 7 thousandths of a second away, so again, personal best in that second sector. So whatever the Schumacher Ferrari package has been working on, nothing great in the first, good in the second, and has he improved? He has, 20.515, and now we were within, well, less than a tenth of a second of last year's pole time.
The tyre really coming in on the latter part of the lap. I wonder whether he's running a different compound to what he was running earlier, but very quick over the last 2 sectors rather than the first sector on that occasion. Rubens Barrichello, he now is also on a lap. First sector not particularly quick, 26.096 through the first section, and now coming up behind a car as well. That's not going to help him. That's Alex Young in the Minardi. He moves out of the way safely. No problem, nails it through bridge corner.
You hear different gear ratios to the Sauber.
That's right, and now into the tight section. Into Luffield. Wait before you can get on the throttle, and then buries the power. Traction control helps a little bit, put the power through the rear wheels, and he shoots across the line. 1.5 seconds slower than his teammate on that one. Not his best lap so far, but they're still just working, gathering data, using this experience for the race day.
Michael Schumacher, fastest of all so far through first sector, but off the pace, and I suspect he's backed off. You can see him, I think he's going to go into the pits, in fact. So Michael, having completed a lap, was fastest 25.369 through that first sector. For some reason lost time in the second and came into the pits.
Bottoming a lot into Beckett, the right-hander, quite completely in the ground, especially the front of the car. You turn left, understeers a lot, and right, you know, you understeers as well, but as soon as you touch the brakes, you change the balance and just roll the car around. Also, bit of generally understeering in Apex, but always the entry is a bit of an issue. Always is a bit oversteering entry, especially in lower corners. The club on power is, I think it's easy, probably because all tires, it's easiest letting the car oversteer too much.
Well, a lot of feedback coming from Montoya as he talks his way around the track for the sake of the engineers as they try and develop the car, try and make it better for him at every area. And there was an interesting little comment in there, John, which I think, I'll check with you what he was talking about, but coming through Beckett's, and he mentioned that when he applied the brakes, he could sort of effectively change the balance of the car through there. So are they left-foot braking a lot through Beckett? Does that help them change the car balance?
What left-foot braking does is just check the speed, but it may also cause the front of the car to come down slightly, which would again affect dynamic balance. The centre of pressure aerodynamically would go forward. And he's got a hair, he's got something in the front of his car. I think he's had an animal. Look, something's hit the front of that McNish's Toyota.
Take a look, here we go. Oh dear, this could be a nasty scene. As yes, it was.
Well, it was, and Well, no damage to Alan McNish or to his Toyota, but we've been plagued with hares this morning, and sadly that one didn't make it.
As well?
And look at the mess, the whole car is just
A little bit less.
It's a mess.
Maybe a little bit less.
Yes, it does make a very nasty mess indeed, and that's a bit unfortunate for McNish.
But going back, here we are on board with Ralf Schumacher into Beckett's. It's such a fast approach that what drivers do is they use left foot braking while they've got throttle on, just to stabilise the car. But of course, by putting brakes on, you will shift this weight forward, and that can just apply a bit more aerodynamic downforce to the front of the car, which can in turn make the car a little bit less stable on the entry to that. You're going into Beckett's basically at about 175, 180 miles an hour. It is absolutely the most awe-inspiring thing I've ever seen in any Formula One circuit or from a car.
Almost comparable to Eau Rouge. I suppose it hasn't got the elevation change.
No, Eau Rouge is almost now a straight line. It is nothing. It's a pussycat compared to Beckett's, believe me.
Well, we're watching Mark Webber come through. Good effort again. 15th place for him in the Minardi. Former race winner in Formula 3000 here at Silverstone in a wet race in 2000. Had a great battle with Darren Manning on that occasion. And Webber, again, faster than De La Rosa at this stage. Irvine's time still holding him up in 11th place. Irvine hasn't been back out for another run since we saw him come out at the start of this second session of free practice. But no doubt we will be seeing the Jaguar back out soon. Jarno Trulli, he's down in 13th place. His teammate Jenson Button is 12th. There was more disparity between the two cars yesterday. Button a fair bit quicker than his teammate, but down there Alex Young has had a spin going into Vale. That's the area we saw so many cars off yesterday. He gets it going cleanly.
Well, Alex Young still in the 1 minute 27.4, contrasting to Michael's 1:20.5. And I mean, you're talking the thin end of 7 seconds as Ralph moves up to 7th place. Got very close to the edge, just turning into Copse. But it's very close between 11th and 15th. There's only a tenth of a second covering those 5 cars.
Yeah, it is massively close, and I think that's going to be the story of qualifying. Just shaving a few hundredths off here and there will make the difference.
They're truly just breathing the throttle a little bit coming through grids, unlike Barrichello and others who've got more grip from either the tyre or more downforce from the chassis.
Seem to have a fair bit of understeer going into the left-hander at Brooklands. Had to wait to get on the throttle, working the steering a bit there on the exit of Luffield. Doesn't look as easy, does it, as riding on board with Barrichello or with Schumacher. It seems to be harder work and not as much grip for the driver of the Renault here, Jarno Trulli.
And Button and Trulli down in 13th and 14th place, and they've dropped away. They were comfortably in the top 10. But as the Bridgestone Tower starts to come through, Villeneuve in 6th place, 1:23.026. Heidfeld in 8th. And then Takuma Sato in 10th. Those are the Bridgestone runners at the bottom half of the top 10. The first Michelin runner is still Kimi Raikkonen in 3rd place, and then Montoya is 5th as the second.
No speed, the car is very unsettled. Into the complex, the rear end, he just wants to overtake me. As soon as I go into the turn 10 with a little bit of speed, or turn 12, snaps oversteer. The rest is a little bit understeer and the high speed at the moment, but let's see with new tires. But
well, struggling through the complex. Good to see both Arrows are on track again after whatever drama it was that saw them both drivers pushing their cars back in. They're both on track.
Yes, Bernoldi now coming across start-finish line as Frentzen goes through Copse, and Frentzen had personal best through 2nd and 3rd sectors. Bernoldi in 11th place. He did a 1:24.5 in that lap against a 23.5 his best. But keep an eye on Frentzen, because in fact he's gone off track. We just got it on board, and Frentzen's had a little excursion. I think that was up at the Beckett's Maggots sort of contact there. You see Frentzen.
Okay, bring it straight in, please.
Frustrating for the team, for Frentzen as well. They need the track time here.
Yeah, this is the exit. This is the exit of Beckett's. He could big oversteer. The back end got away. Then Chappell, he had to straighten the car up. Lucky there's a bit of extra tarmac. Onto the gravel, across the grass. There's a big wall just to his left. He wants to stay away from that and avoid the advertising. There's the on view. Now watch. There's the wall. Look how close it'll get to him.
Yeah, thankfully he was able to sneak between the banner and the wall and get back onto the track, and hopefully not hitting any too major bumps in there, so the car will be okay to continue. But they just need to keep running, and that's not happening for them.
Well, Giancarlo Fisichella finally out, having spent the best part of 15 minutes of this session waiting for his car to be complete. Now the Italian, back on track, has yet to complete a flying lap, so this is his personal best to date. Every section will be that.
Well, is he going to be able to challenge his teammate Takuma Sato? Sato is still in the top 10, just 10th place for him ahead of Bernaldi, and we'll see whether Fisichella can challenge for this, his first flying lap. Bit of a lift in Bridge Corner there.
Yes, I mean that's understandable. It's your first flying lap, and you're trying to play catch-up all the way, so you don't literally commit in an on-time session, an unofficial session as this is. Nevertheless, pushing hard. A little bit of understeer mid-corner to exit. There's the Jordan for Fisichella. So let's see where this leaves him after his first flying lap. Fisichella pops up to 16th, and on this run of probably 5 laps, 1 out, 3 flying and 1 in, we'll see further improvement from the Italian.
Let's watch it back. It's now.
So quick, didn't lift.
First part was flat out, and then just taking the speed off for the second and third parts, and the whole sequence gradually tightening up on you, and it's so difficult to get the speed of approach right and then get the balance right through the mid part of that corner. Irvine continues around, so he's now back out for what is really his second run of this morning after the problems he suffered in the first free practice session. Let's see what he can do now.
But very disappointed to hear Pedro de la Rosa complain about a very nervous back to the Jaguar. All the work that has gone into this revision on aerodynamics and a revised rear suspension has been to get a handle on that problem, this instability at the rear of the Jaguar, and Pedro's complaining about it. We haven't heard from Eddie Irvine, who probably can drive a car in a different manner to Pedro. Maybe some of these changes suit Eddie's style more than they suit Pedro de la Rosa's style.
Yes, that's right. Eddie tends to carry a lot of speed into the corners, and that hasn't always been possible this year. Now this was where De La Rosa said the back end of the car was unstable. Eddie seems to have it pretty well under control. There you could just see a little correction mid-corner as there as well in the exit of the corner. He had to sort of fight the steering a bit as the back end wanted to step out, but across the line he comes, and a 124.439, so no improvement on what he did earlier, which was a 123.6.
Ben, what's interesting I think is 6th is Villeneuve, 123.0. 16th is Fisichella, 123.69, 6/10 of a second covering those 10 cars. I mean, is this a close grid, or is this a close grid?
It's going to be very, very tight in qualifying, and for Jaguar having to develop new bits and pieces on the car, trying to get the best out of it, it's going to be hard for them to show whether it is an improvement or not. Barrichello and Michael Schumacher then on track at the moment, and the Ferrari fans of all ages enjoying seeing these two dominant cars, and the situation between them still a good battle in prospect in qualifying at least, and then see what happens in the race itself. Barrichello making the European Grand Prix his own, particularly on the first lap. It was a great first lap from Barrichello to take the advantage, and that in many ways was how he went on to win the Grand Prix. They battled for a while before being told to hold station. Michael Schumacher will be out to make up for that.
Watch how late he breaks into Stowe. And he's almost turning before he gets the brakes on. I mean, you're talking about less than 100 metres from 190 miles an hour.
And don't forget, that's the corner he broke his leg at in 1999, and he says it still figures, he still thinks about it when he comes back to Silverstone. There's no sign of it though, is there, John, when he gets on the brakes that late into the corner?
No, that's commitment. Now into Abbey, use all the curb in the entry and a lot on the exit. Now listen, flat through bridge.
No
as
problem.
A kipper.
And the car's not even moving, is it? Look, it's so stable.
I mean, 10th of a second up, and we've not seen personal bests from Michael in any of these sectors, but nevertheless a 10th of a second up. So 120.4 in prospect, and that could be enough to eclipse last year's pole time.
Oh, and it looked great out of Luffield too. He didn't have to fight the steering at all. All he did was put the power in, wind the lock off, and across the line. Just a fraction outside his best so far, but just a few thousandths really slower than he's already achieved. That car just looks superb, and Michael Schumacher, the master at work.
Well, he's backed off.
Yeah, Montoya here.
He had a very good, his 25.5 first sector time was in touch with Ferrari, and suddenly he just backed off. That may have been there's traffic ahead of him.
Very good balance, a lot more stability than the other tire. I think we can go a bit more front wing with this.
So they're obviously changing between the different tyres here, John.
Yeah,
and he sounded much
tires.
happier.
5/10 up on your first sector, yeah? You're 5/10 up.
You can see that he's on a fresh set of rubber. The grooves are still very, very shiny, and he wants to go back into the pit, so he's going to make a small aerodynamic change. to, I think, around the front of the car, probably a little bit more rear wing. I doubt he'll take rear wing off it, so he'll come into the pits. No, he doesn't.
He's building back up, so he wants to have another run, obviously. He perhaps got held up on that previous lap, and now he's going to put in another run. Following over the line was Felipe Massa, so the two of them on track together. We've got 10 cars on track at the moment, so it's fairly busy out there, but he's got a clearish run. Villeneuve and Webber ahead. Look at that there, you can see the car really working.
Yeah, I mean, the car, I would describe it as a ratcheting action, just sort of very short, sort of staccato, as he came through the right-hand part of Beckett's. I mean, big load. That was a part of the track that Montoya wasn't happy. Look, at 10th of a second up.
He's faster than Michael to the first checkpoint. We haven't seen that yet. Now, of course, they may well be have pumped out a bit of fuel as we look towards the end of this free practice session and on towards qualifying. But here comes Montoya now, winner of pole position on the last few Grand Prix. Will they go for it here today? Well, they'll certainly go for it, but will they have the tyre to enable them to do it? That's the question. Up towards Abbey now, through the left-hander, the right-hander. Listen to the engine note here. Changing up in the middle of the corner, flat out. That's pretty impressive.
And the transition from coming out of bridge to getting back to the right to go through Priory, it all comes up so quickly, and then he was even pulled another gear. So now we see what he can do in this final exit out of Luffield. That's a problem always, to get the bite and get the balance, to get the power on and go across start-finish line.
21.076, not enough to beat Schumacher, but it's enough to beat Barrichello. It splits the Ferraris, so a much stronger showing there from the Williams of Juan Pablo Montoya, and he's got his supporters.
5 tenths down on Michael, half a second down on Michael. I'll get Ernst to have a look at it straight away on the end. With you. Yeah, Tony, we're looking at it.
So the work continues in the Williams pit. You know, Williams had a run of 7 pole positions here in the early 90s, and that was a really remarkable run. Every year they came along, they took pole position, but it has been a little while since they've been on pole. Back in 1997 now with Jacques Villeneuve. So let's see whether Montoya can do it again. He's looking for 4 in a row here this weekend.
Whoops, Jensen struggling through Brooklands. Looked very good through Bridge Corner. Jensen Button all the way down in 12th place. So he may see a small improvement, but it's so close between the 6th and 16th. So he stays in 12th place. But what has been interesting is that Nick Heidfeld quietly got on with his business, has gone 4th quickest ahead of the fastest of the McLarens.
That's a good effort from the Sauber driver. So Nick Heidfeld 4th, Raikkonen has been pushed back to 5th. There we are looking inside the Sauber pit. And indeed, they must be very pleased with that, I should think. Raikkonen 5th, as I say, Massa 6th, so the other Sauber's up there. Frentzen is then 7th, De La Rosa is 8th, Villeneuve 9th, Ralf Schumacher 10th, then it's Coulthard. We're looking at him now. He's 11th fastest currently in this session, ahead of Button, Sato 13th, Bernaldi, Irvine down in 15th place, then it's Trulli, Webber, Fisichella. Panis is down in 19th place. The 2 Toyotas are really seem to be struggling here. They're last except for Alex Young. He's at the back, 22nd, but the Toyota's not in good form.
Well, I'm surprised because power is very valuable at Silverstone. They made a lot of changes to the car. They were much happier with it at the Nürburgring. Yet here at Silverstone, maybe it's just the complexity of the very high-speed parts of the circuit than the very low-speed technical bits. But Coulthard, look at him, look at his face.
Great, isn't it? Watch the concentration.
Look, he looks across and he's looking across to the left now. He's backed off, he's looking to see, he's going to come in. He's just checking if anybody's around him. So just he got a glimpse. No, he's not, he's just looking for track position, but making sure that there's nobody close to him that he might interfere with their particular lap.
Yeah, so he backed off a little bit there. Now he goes on to a quick lap once again. So the time to be discounted from that last lap because it really doesn't apply. Lisa Dennis there. We spoke to her yesterday about the launch of her new range of children's books, and very proud of those, and got a very warm response from everyone who had a look at the books, and wishing her success with those over the next few months as she puts them on the market. Mac and Lauren, the characters in the books. And looking at Bernaldi here, he's trying to move his way up the order. He's down in 14th position.
And he's going to go up above that, no doubt about this. Well, 9th into the top 10 again, 2 arrows in the top 10. And again, big commitment through Kopp's corner, but the car is absolutely 100% with Benoldi while he does it.
Yeah, so Benoldi, 9th place now. Let's see whether the Arrows can try and hold on to some top 10 places, particularly in qualifying.
Braking and turning in there, I'm getting I'm getting quite a bit of oversteer. I don't know if that'll be there on the new tyres, maybe that's something to do with the tyres going off. But the camber changes, it's not helping that.
They definitely seem to be struggling a touch more than we might have expected, Renault. They don't look as confident and as happy as we expected them to be at Silverstone. There goes Coulthard. This takes him across at 22.903, so that keeps him in 10th place, a slight improvement in time, but still in 10th position overall.
Well, we've got 15 minutes of this session remaining. David through Beckett now with Ralf Schumacher down into Stowe. With 15 minutes remaining, it's about to become a lot of pressure for drivers and for teams, because this is the last opportunity they're going to get to find out just how quick they can go. And fairly fresh looking tyres on Ralf Schumacher's Williams. Ralf currently in 12th, but 25.5 in that first sector. And let's see, this is certainly going to put him inside the top 6, and might even be better than that if he gets through bridge cleanly.
Well, that looked good. And now tries to get it turned in. That was flat through there, no problem. He's fastest in the second sector of the lap, so this is definitely a big improvement for Ralf Schumacher. A little bit of correction there.
Again, the understeer, he has that mid-corner which really pulls him off the throttle.
Now let's see where this puts him then. Ralf Schumacher climbing up the order, and it puts him second, so just nearly 0.2 of a second slower than the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher. Gerhard Berger takes a close look at the times. BMW engine man Mario Tyson also watching closely, and that's a good effort from Ralf Schumacher. Montoya and Ralf are now second and third. Ralf second, Montoya third, splitting the Ferraris. Michael still on top, with Barrichello now pushed back to fourth, ahead of Heidfeld, Raikkonen, Massa, Frentzen, De La Rosa, Bernoldi and Coulthard.
Michael Schumacher starts another lap. I mean, the car is just superb, absolutely magnificent through Copse. Listen and watch.
You can see the speed he carries through that first section of Beckett's.
Again, look at the load on that rear, the left rear. He just leans on the steering wheel. The back end says, I'm with you, I'm here, just give me more throttle. And I mean, that's where the 0.3 of a second in that first sector. This is going to be a low 120. Certainly if he maintains this pace, well below last year's pole time.
Revisions on the engine program throughout the season as well. They're actually using more revs, we gather, for this weekend, so even more horsepower perhaps available to them than they've had throughout this season. And even with the amount they've had, they seem to be on top most of the time.
Jacques Villeneuve just ahead. Let's hope that this doesn't come into play in this lap again. Watch him through bridge.
A big splat on the camera lens, unfortunately, at that precise moment.
0.4 up at that second split, and now Villeneuve, is he coming in? Is he going to stay out of the way? Yeah, he's far enough forward. It's not going to affect Michael Schumacher. This final long Luffield corner, Villeneuve into the pits. Michael completes his lap.
So this is going to put it further out of reach. Let's see what the time is. It's a 1:20.428, and that's just outside. In fact, that's just under last year's pole that he set himself for 1:20.447.
That's awesome, absolutely awesome. But interestingly, he lost the thin end of 0.4 of a second in that last sector. Don't know why. Michael certainly could have done a lap, I believe, quicker than that, but whatever reason, those best part of 0.4 just evaporated.
Now let's keep an eye on Nick Heidfeld, because he's already fifth fastest, remember, and the Sauber looks to be in good shape, although this first sector not looking particularly dramatic. His teammate Felipe Massa sits in the Sauber pit, as we've got quite a number of cars, 9 cars on track currently.
And Olivier Panis, we got a glimpse. That's the first time he's been out all of this session. He missed the best part of the first morning session. Now just out with 11.5 minutes to go.
Yes, a number of people trying to put in some quick laps to finish off this session. Fisichella 15th at the moment. We've just seen him go across the line, although he didn't improve on his previous lap. Heidfeld crosses the line then, stays in 5th position. Michael Schumacher has just gone faster again on the first sector, but he comes back in.
Isn't that wicked the way he dived back in? He knows he's got the car, he knows he's got the time. Down to the 60 kilometers per hour for practicing. It'll go up to 80 become the Grand Prix itself. So Michael Schumacher will come in. If he's happy with the car, it'll probably be just a fresh set of whichever the chosen Bridgestone tyre is, and will go out and possibly will be the first man to get below the 1 minute 20. I was predicting in the 1 minute 18s for pole. Maybe I've been a bit optimistic. Weather's come into play, but look at those super slow-mo replays of the Ferrari. Just the body language of the car is just absolutely, look at that. Talk about throttle and balance and steering balance. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. That's the exit of Beckett's, where you really change direction. High G-force one way, then the swing back the other way. Nigel Mansell once called it a 12G corner because he compounded up the 4G in each of the 3 sections. Creative thinking, Nige.
Well, great shots, I have to say. I mean, you might not see racing cars drift like they used to, but that was a great angle, and you could really see the car drifting, the tyres working beyond their maximum, really, but Michael Schumacher just working it to the limit. Great stuff. Olivier Panis, let's see what he can do now that he is back out. They've got the car fixed, which is a relief. 15th he goes for the moment, just ahead of Giancarlo Fisichella, but it's Villeneuve who's in 13th place and Takuma Sato in 11th, so it's Sato winning the Honda battle at the moment.
Well, just when he wanted to ride with Olivier Panis up through Beckett's, we get some radio traffic.
Yes, Ralph for his opportunity to come back out again, and number of laps being completed by people. Heidfeld up to 32 laps through the first 2 sessions of free practice here today, so plenty of laps being completed by the Swiss team, and Heidfeld, a lot of experience here of driving around Silverstone over the years, making full use of that experience.
Again, Ben, just looking through the times, Raikkonen in 6th place, 22.4.
Oh no, Panis has stopped
down
again.
To Sato and 20. He's gone off track, so that looks like down to the driver. He stopped down at Vale. Now, whether he's spun it or there or he stopped it there.
That's where he stopped last time, isn't it?
He stopped on the inside, in fact, of Vale, so quite how he got there and where the car is in relation, just the camera angle looked like it may have been a spin, but that looks like it probably was. In fact, he's pulled off before Vale, and I mean, a frustrating day, disappointment, huge disappointment for Olivier Panis. This is the exit of Stowe Corner on the run down to Vale. Let's watch and see what happened.
Yeah, heading down there now. Watch his hands on the steering.
It just
dies, doesn't it?
Just dies, same as probably happened to him this morning.
Dear oh dear, this is more like the beginning of the year for BAR, where they had all these problems, and it was always Panis who seemed to be afflicted, and now it's come back to him. The last few races, it's been Panis who's been completing the most laps in the free practice sessions. For some reason, all the luck's gone, and he's not getting any laps in this.
Well, you know, this thing about luck, and this is something about teams usually down the middle and bottom order, it ain't luck. Somebody is not doing their job properly. That's why this team, and Williams and McLaren in particular, are so successful, because they eliminate luck. They control their own destiny, and BAR have got to get a handle on this unreliability, because really it is very unsatisfactory.
Well, he's usually fairly phlegmatic about things, Olivier Panis, but he looks absolutely furious this time, and I can quite understand why. He is losing such valuable time out there on the track, and it's going to hurt him considerably when it comes to qualifying this afternoon. Barrichello then crossing the line, and he goes fastest. So it's the other Ferrari that goes ahead again, and the battle between the two Ferraris will be one to watch over the course of the weekend, no doubt about it. But Barrichello just a fraction faster. Looking back at Olivier Panis here, that's just a Gallic shrug, but more than that, it's just deep frustration for him, and such a great shame, and he just doesn't want anybody to touch him at this point. He wants to deal with that frustration on his own.
It's a pretty empty racetrack right now, and Montoya's taken the chance to go back out. So has Eddie Irvine, so has Alex Young, and only Truly appears on track along with Frentzen. And here we see the Renault, and let's listen and watch. Oh, but look at that. Well, there you go. That's what happens.
Yeah, lots of traffic around at the moment, so no great opportunity for Trulli. Now hopefully he'll look for some clear space next time around. But it is a long lap here. It's over 3 miles, of course, around the Silverstone Grand Prix track. And it takes you a while. If you get held up down there at Beckett's, you've got a long way before you can start a fresh lap. And that's something to watch out for in qualifying this afternoon.
Frentzen currently in 8th place, quickest of the two arrows. So David Coulthard sitting there waiting for a brand new set of super fast Michelin tyres. And just a look at the front upright suspension as we go back to Frentzen. And this is a back off for Frentzen.
Okay, first sector was your quickest so far.
Yep, it was indeed. We look at the data screen.
A bit of understeer.
Button number 5, remember, on the interactive, if you want to look at the data screen, and you'll see there that Frentzen showed a green sector time. That means a personal best. And this was the replay. You see, this was why he had to back off, because he met traffic down at Club Corner, and it looked like it was Montoya, and that really effectively ended his chance to put in a quick lap.
And he didn't give the international sign of thanks very much for that one.
New tyres for Michael Schumacher now. But this could be a blistering pace.
Yeah, but Michael Schumacher coming out. Rubens Barrichello on track. Barrichello again, personal improvement in first sector as Michael comes out with a fresh set of rubber. Montoya back in, having caused Heinz-Harald Frentzen no end of
shape. But Michael Schumacher now out there on a new set of tyres himself.
Well, Rubens is nibbling away to get down to that sub 1 minute 22nd lap time. Michael Schumacher back out on track, brand new set of rubber. In the meantime, Kimi Raikkonen personal best, he's 6th quickest. Villeneuve improving, Irvine improving. Irvine could sort of leap up from 17th as we go on board with Kimi Raikkonen. Raikkonen currently in 7th place. This is the exit out of Club all the way down into Abbey. Watch him on the brakes.
So yes, let's take a look at Kimi Raikkonen. Yeah, a little bit of work to be done through the curve. Listen. Yeah, well, that was flat through there. Sounded fairly good, but look how far down he is on the split time.
Yeah, but still a personal best. But Frentzen has been 6th. Now Villeneuve in the BAR pops up to 6th. And apparently the reason for Panis stopping wasn't electrical this time. It was a terminal engine problem, whatever that means. I think you translate that as blow up.
And dear it is. So the boys are going to be busy there at BAR. Raikkonen moves up. He goes to 5th position now. So it's now Barrichello, Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher. And here goes Michael onto his flying lap on a brand new set of tyres. We saw Raikkonen ahead of him, but he's a fair way ahead of him. Otherwise fairly clear. So let's watch the Ferrari.
Isn't that quick?
He's absolutely on the limit, and yet makes it look so easy. Uses all the road there, both out of Beckett's, out of Chapel Curve, onto Hanger Straight now, building up to 190 miles an hour before getting late onto the brakes. And look at the split time, up by 0.2.
So can Michael Schumacher take his Ferrari and be the first man on the current Silverstone Grand Prix circuit in an official practice session to get below the 1 minute 20, the 80-second barrier? It's never been broken, even to my knowledge, in unofficial testing. So Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello, of course, still fastest, but that time under serious threat from the reigning world champion.
It all looks so controlled, it looks so easy. The car doesn't seem to be sliding around much. Let's take a look at the second check, and he's up by 1.5 tenths again.
And that was just lost a marginal time, and he runs wide out of Brooklands, again pushing so hard. Can he recover, get the car back onto the ideal line? Wide out of Luffield.
Almost all 4 wheels onto the concrete on the outside there. Is it enough to beat Barrichello? No, it is not. He lost a big chunk of time on the last 2 sectors.
All I can say is Michael Schumacher responded to Rubens Barrichello by trying big time. Wide on the exit of Brooklands. Oh, and there's a Minardi, and that is
Mark Webber. The exit of Copse.
That's a long way down the exit of Copse.
Yeah.
How he got there, whether he had a problem coming out of pit lane. As we look at the aerial view, this is Michael Schumacher. Look how wide he gets. Actually, all 4 wheels off the actual racetrack onto the runoff rumble strips. And this is where all the time went. He'll be getting slip, slide, and wheel spin. Suddenly the red would just soar as he came onto that grass.
This is Ralf Schumacher. We're almost into the final minute of free practice. And at the split, he's nearly a second slower than Rubens Barrichello, who has the fastest time in this session. The Ferraris 1 and 2. Ralf is 3rd overall at the moment, and he's got a car right ahead of him, and that's not going to help. That's Alan McNish.
Yes, McNish back on track after that scary moment when he came across the hair on the way into Stowe Corner.
Yellows are out at the moment, of course, for Mark Webber over on the other side of the track, but that means that they can't really attack too much in that first sector, otherwise they'll get into trouble with the race stewards, and so they have to back off a little bit through that first section.
Well, they're coming up to the completion of a lap, and we've still got that yellow flag station out at the exit of Cop, so frustration for everybody. There's been 25 seconds remaining, enough to get a flying lap in, but of course you must obey the yellow flag zones, and if you improve your time, well, you will find yourself being fined for that particular luxury.
We saw that Alan McNish was ahead there, but he's quite a long way down still, I'm afraid. Sarlo's moved up a bit. He's up to 16th place now. It's not much to write home about, but it's put him ahead of Button. And Frentzen here, well, he's doing all right. He's on a pretty good lap, currently in 8th, and this first sector at least was certainly better. The checkered flag is out. He will receive it as he crosses the line. Does this move Frentzen up any further? Yes, 1 place. He's up to 7th.
Well, all I can say is well done to all the team and all the guys in Arrows, to Frentzen and Vanoli. They've done a great job under extremely trying circumstances. And let's hope all those problems are now behind the team and they can move forward into the Grand Prix and the rest of the season and enjoy the success that they really do deserve.
David Coulthard currently 14th, but first sector an improvement for him. Not an overall fastest time, 8/10 slower than the fastest time we've seen so far, but this should move him up the order. This very, very closely bunched midfield. Trulli's just moved up to 9th, so that's an improvement for the Renault driver. Just getting into the top 10. More improvements. Button up to 7th now. So both Renaults putting in a quick lap towards the end of the session as Coulthard continues.
And it's really what we're looking for is David Coulthard to complete the team by team lineup that we've seen in many recent Grand Prix. So this could be enough to put David Coulthard into the top 6. We have to wait and see how he completes this final exit out of Luffy. Looks good, neat, clean, good drive off the corner.
Over the line, and it puts him into 5th. So that's just ahead of his teammate, Kimi Räikkönen. In fact, 0.4 of a second faster than his teammate there. And as you say, John, it has gone into team formation. Michael Schumacher's just set a new fastest first sector, although he will be coming in at the end of the lap. He's just gone a few hundredths faster again through that first sector. He looks fairly happy, reasonably pleased with performance so far. And Coulthard, although he's twice won the Grand Prix, he's never qualified particularly well here. So we'll see what McLaren Mercedes can do for him here this afternoon. Jenson Button has improved to 8th, as we see now. And it's the 2 Ferraris that have ended up fastest in this free practice session, leading to qualifying for the British Grand Prix. Then the 2 Williams BMWs, the 2 McLarens, and the 2... then the Sauber of Heidfeld, then Button, and then Frentzen's Arrows in 9th and Villeneuve in 10th place.
Yeah, Jenson Button, in fact, had been as high as 7th, but when David Coulthard popped up to 5th place, that, of course, relegated Jenson down to the 4th row to get 8th time. And then you got Frentzen and Villeneuve rounding out the top 10 in 9th and 10th. And both teams really on the rack pretty much all year, and a good job by both teams.
Michael Schumacher bringing the Ferrari back into scrutineering by the looks of things, and the checks that continue throughout the weekend. Let's take a look back over the times then, and Barrichello and Schumacher dominating once again. You can see the advantage, not as big as it might have seemed at one stage, about half a second though over Ralf Schumacher and Montoya. Coulthard and Räikkönen next up for McLaren Mercedes, then Nick Heidfeld with the 3rd of the Bridgestone users on this sort of provisional grid. It's not a qualifying session, of course, but 7th fastest, and 8th behind him is Jenson Button, then Frentzen and Villeneuve. So good effort from the Arrows driver. BAR Honda of Villeneuve, they'll be pretty pleased if they can stay up there in the top 10. Then it's Trulli, Massa, Irvine and De La Rosa, very evenly matched. Look at that, 22.5 from both of them, separated by just a few hundredths of a second. But are they getting anywhere? Are they making progress with the new car? That's the question. Bernoldi and the second Arrows down in 15th, the 2 Jordans 16th and 17th, but I'm afraid the Toyotas, they're at the back. McNish and Sarlo 18th and 19th, with behind them Panis, who stopped again in that session, and the 2 Minardis. Oh, they're quite a big difference in time, nearly 2 seconds between Mark Webber and Alex Young as he makes his way back. Let's take a look back over the highlights.